Hey, good man. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. So, of course, final battle coming up Friday in New York City, December 2nd. It's going to be a great show. Main eventing the show is you and Kyle O'Reilly for the Ring of Honor World
Yeah.
Championship. So, the funny thing about this is that you've main evented Final Battle a few times before, and only a few other people can say that. So, although you're the current Ring of Honor World Champion, do you look at Final Battle as kind of like your WrestleMania as your proving ground each year?
Yeah, 100%. I'm so glad you said that because certain events are like extremely obvious that they're the company's showcase or number one big event of the year. But Ring of Honor has always been a company that has so many big events throughout the year that some people kind of forget that Final Battle is our show. It's the one that we build everything towards. And it's the one that we make sure we work a little bit extra hard. I mean, and this one's even more special for multiple reasons. You know, number one, we're returning to the Hammerstein Ballroom, where for a while that was a really, really big area for Ring of Honor, where we really used to showcase and have a lot of our big events there. Number two is the history with myself and Kyle O'Reilly. I mean, we both got signed to Ring of Honor pretty much the exact same time in 2010. We were a team for a while, and then we went on to do our own stuff singles-wise. So, excuse me. So to be able to say that I'm main eventing another Final Battle with a guy like Kyle O'Reilly is a really, really cool full circle moment for me. But yeah, the pressure you feel from Final Battle, the proving ground that you create even for yourself. You know, the fans are jazzed up and ready to go, but the pressure that you put on yourself is definitely there.
I mean, you said it yourself. Your feud with O'Reilly has been years as tag team partners. I mean, you guys have been rivals. I mean, you faced off at last year's show too, so it's kind of cool to see it come full circle. Do you think that's a testament to Ring of Honor's abilities to tell long-term stories as well as you guys as performers?
Yeah, I think so. That's actually my favorite thing. Excuse me, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no
That's
problem.
actually my favorite thing about Ring of Honor is the way they tell their stories and the way they develop their characters. I've always loved whether it be a movie or a television show or anything like that, stuff that takes time to develop, stuff that people can invest in over time because there's little details you're able to tell and there's little intricacies of those stories that you can pick up on with more time. And Ring of Honor has always been a company that really, really invests in long-term storytelling with certain individuals. You know, I look at like my feud with Jay Briscoe that built up to Final Battle in 2014, and that was a year and a half build. So that was really cool and created a really cool atmosphere because the people knew how much time was invested into the Adam Cole Jay Briscoe story. The same can be said for Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. Only it's been 6 years in the making. So it's even cooler that this matchup is happening, and I think it's a big reason our fans really do get invested in our characters. It's different. It's not this. I'm trying to think of. It's not this immediate, quick gratification of okay, these two guys have a conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Let's resolve this conflict immediately. In Ring of Honor, the conflict builds over time, and people change, and their thought process changes, and then they eventually end up, and they have this big finale, and that's what this is for me and Kyle. This is our big finale. It really is our final battle. So I definitely think we have a roster full of guys who are capable of doing that sort of thing, and then we certainly have a promotion that believes in that format and that direction of pro wrestling. And I really think it's what makes us stand out and what makes really cool, compelling storylines work for ROH.
And speaking of that match from last year, I remember watching it back and just remember thinking that because by that point, even of course a year later, but even at that point, you guys had been feuding and had been, had history for years, and you guys immediately started going right at each other. No like headlocks, no like slow start. It's one of those ruthless rivalries, and to me, it's like the little stuff like that that kind of make the matches that much more intriguing and that much more meaningful and that much more real. So to you, do you think the little things like that still make the biggest differences in today's wrestling?
Absolutely, like for sure. Again, I'm so glad you brought that up because those little details are what makes it stand out. I really think the reason that we were able to capture Philadelphia the way that we did was because of little nuances like that. Because again, we have a roster full of, in my opinion, the best wrestlers in the world. So of course you're going to see a show full of great wrestling action. That goes without saying when you go to a Ring of Honor show. But to really convince the audience, especially a company like Philadelphia, who has seen it all, that there are two guys in the ring who are really trying to tear each other apart. It's the little details. Like the other one that kind of sticks up into my mind is there was a point where Kyle decided to slap me while I was on the ground, and I sat right up and spit in his face and flipped in the bird, and then he immediately put me in an arm bar in Philadelphia. It was like, oh my God, these guys are trying to kill each other. So it's little stuff like that of us. We knew that we couldn't go in there and we couldn't have a traditional pro wrestling match. We needed to have a fight. And, I can assure you that in New York City, it's going to be the same song and dance for me and Kyle. Me and Kyle are way past the point of seeing who the better wrestler is. This is a personal animosity between the two of us. So anytime Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly go toe-to-toe now, it's always a fight every single time.
I mean, it was a blood feud even then, and quite a bit has changed since then. I mean, Kyle O'Reilly has kind of worked his way up the pecking order. You've already been a world champion before. You're world champion now. But in that year, you were able to join the Bullet Club as the group's new leader earlier this year. So how do you think joining the Bullet Club, I mean, I told you when I met you a couple months ago that you were a star. You're a star even now, and you're a star then. But, I mean, even prior to joining the Bullet Club, you were already a solidified main event player. So do you think that joining the Bullet Club was kind of adding more mileage to your Ring of Honor character, career, and so on?
Absolutely, of course. Like, I'll tell you what, man, when I joined the Bullet Club, there was nothing I had done in my career that got more social media attention than that. I will never, ever forget, Twitter and Facebook just blowing up. There was a lot of positive. There was a lot of negative. But, a lot of people were talking. A lot of people had their opinions on it. I think it's safe to say that Bullet Club, especially now, is the most influential wrestling faction in pro wrestling. And you can even look, at WWE. You can look at companies all over the world. Everyone kind of has their hands in the pot of Bullet Club. So for me to get to join that group certainly gave me like an added dynamic of a new thing that I could do in Ring of Honor, because I've been really lucky, and I've gotten to do a lot of really cool things in ROH. But adding me into Bullet Club and adding me into that group, again, like you had said, kind of gave my character a new dynamic. It gave me new things to play with. No, I personally think the Adam Cole character is best utilized in a group with other people. I definitely think that me as a singles guy is predominantly the way that things should go with my character. But at the same time, me having a group to play off of or get help from, per se, it just really helps, I think, develop that character even more. So getting to join that group certainly was one of the biggest things I've done in my career. Kind of started my career for me over in New Japan Pro Wrestling, which has been awesome. And again, it just gave me more conflict and more things to do in ROH. And then the other cool thing too, because a lot of people ask, like, why I thought that I was a fit for Bullet Club. And I think the biggest thing for sure is, number one, I'm really close personal friends with all those guys. We have been talking about me joining Bullet Club for quite some time. So finally getting to do it and a spot opening up was great. And then two, I think the reason Bullet Club has been able to stay so relevant and so hot is because they're always so good about who they choose to involve in their group. They always pick young, upstart, popular guys who are really trying to make an impact or really trying to take their career to that next level. And really, anyone who has joined the group, they have benefited from it. Anyone who's been involved in Bullet Club, they've benefited from it. And I can certainly say the same for myself. My career has moved forward since joining this group.
I mean, like you said, that night that you joined the club, the Bullet Club rather, it was a huge moment. Social media went nuts. And the only thing that came close to matching that same buzz this year for Ring of Honor, in my opinion, was when you recaptured the Ring of Honor World Championship only a couple months afterwards. And the biggest part about that was that not only did you join an elite group of Austin Aries and Jay Briscoe of having held the championship twice, but you also ended the 400 and some odd day reign of Jay Lethal after a year and a half. So it was a huge moment. So, a lot has changed. You held the belt before, as I alluded to, many years ago. What would you say are the biggest differences between your first run as champion many years ago and now? Do you feel like a bigger sense of responsibility this time around?
Yeah. I think for me, the biggest difference actually is when I first won the Ring of Honor World Championship, I was a kid. I was 23 years old, And just to be quite frank and quite honest with you, I was scared to death. I mean, I was working with all these guys who I admired and looked up to. I still do. I still admire and look up to all these guys, but I really hadn't had too much main event, give you the ball, you're leading the charge pressure before in my career. So, I mean, I remember winning the championship for the first time in Philadelphia and feeling, I can't even describe the emotion. I had so many different feelings going through my body, but I remember the positive feeling of happiness and relief and satisfaction was very short-lived, because then the realization of, wow, okay, I have to actually follow through with this and do this, and the pressure that I put on myself was just insane. I mean, it's what we live for and it's what we do, but I remember being just really, really feeling that pressure. So after that entire title run, where I got used to main eventing pay-per-views and main eventing Ring of Honor shows, that really helped me develop not just as a wrestler, but as a man too. Just getting used to that pressure and getting used to dealing with the pressure that you put on yourself. So then to lose the championship and win it back, that pressure is still there. It's 100% there. It's all Ring of Honor wrestlers put that pressure on themselves, especially when they're given a chance to be the world champion. But I definitely have a more relaxed, comfortable, almost stop and smell the roses kind of feeling, because I've been down this road before. Winning the championship in Vegas, I got to look out and my family was in the audience, and I remember that entire day, or that entire night, actually, I got to really sit back and kind of enjoy that moment, relish in that moment, and being able to have Bullet Club with me adds a whole new dynamic to this entire title run. So yeah, I guess pretty much to get to the point that I really do feel a lot more comfortable in this championship reign, because I've been down this road before, and I'm really just trying to enjoy it as much as possible, while of course keeping the pressure on myself. But yeah, really just enjoying it this time.
I mean, it's really night and day. I mean, that was only 3 years ago, late 2013, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So, I mean, it's really, so much has changed. You would think it's been 5-10 years, and you're only 27 years old now compared to when you first won the championship at 23. And you can help me out with the timeline here, but I believe it was right around that time, late 2013, that you also had a tryout for WWE as well. And it was also around that time that NXT really, of course, obviously, wasn't what it is today. I know they had also former Ring of Honor stars. They had Eddie Edwards, Davey Richards over there. That kind of felt out of place at that time, because now you look at the roster, and almost half the guys there, Samoa Joe, Austin Aries, and Roderick Strong, are former Ring of Honor guys. So, of course, do you think, in your opinion, my question for you is, do you think that, of course, coming over to Ring of Honor or staying with Ring of Honor instead, as opposed to going to WWE at that time, was the best decision for you to grow as a performer?
Oh yeah, for sure. I remember I got the exact timeline for you. It was I was Ring of Honor television champion in early 2013, and I went down to do this WWE tryout. And at that point in time, again, I had kind of that young, I don't want to say immature, but maybe a little bit, but kind of that mentality of, okay, I have this WWE tryout. I need to make it. I need to get signed by WWE. That was kind of my mentality. I always loved wrestling for Ring of Honor, but my goal was, okay, I really want to nail this tryout, and I really want to do it. And the tryout went really, really well, to the point where I actually thought I was leaving. And then there were just circumstances kind of on both ends where it was, maybe it'd be better for me to kind of continue my path of where I was going now. And for me to be able to say that I stayed, won the Pro Wrestling Guerrilla World Championship, became a 2-time Ring of Honor World Champion, it actually developed this Adam Cole character. In early 2013, I was just getting my feet wet with being a heel and being a villain in ROH. I was experimenting with it. Getting to wrestle over in New Japan Pro Wrestling and just kind of building this brand up and figuring out, again, who I am and what I feel that I bring to the table. That was all developed after that WWE tryout. So I am so thankful and so glad that I decided to go the route of developing this character and growing with Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor is a company that I'm really, really proud to be a part of. And to see where this company has gone and where it's developed, and to be able to say that I've been one of the guys at the front lines in that, is pretty cool, and it's something I'm definitely grateful for. But yeah, definitely glad that I ended up staying and developing and maturing and growing as a performer, because I feel like the wrestler that I am now, as opposed to the wrestler I was in 2013, were just two completely different wrestlers. So definitely a benefit for me, and I wouldn't change my direction or my path for anything.
And I've been watching Ring of Honor regularly for a few years now, and to me, I had yet to go to a Ring of Honor show up until All-Star Extravaganza a few months ago in the Massachusetts area. And by that point, when they announced that the show was coming to that area, I said, I need to go. Because like I said, there's so many guys right now in NXT that are Ring of Honor based, from Joe to Aries to Strong. And it's almost like Ring of Honor, I honestly don't feel like this gets enough credit, the company gets enough credit, for developing the talent of tomorrow, not only for the future of the company itself, as such as yourself, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, all these other guys, Silas Young also rising up in the ranks, but you also got guys that are going off into WWE and becoming big stars, or just as big enough stars in Ring of Honor. So do you think Ring of Honor doesn't get the credit it deserves, and I don't want to say stepping stone, but really kind of giving birth to these stars in WWE? Because I mean, for as much talk as there is for them creating their own stars, they're kind of borrowing a lot of guys from the Ring of Honor pool. So what are your thoughts on that?
Right, of course. Yeah. Well, I actually think Ring of Honor has been creating this level of wrestler pretty much since the company started in 2002. Like for a lot of hardcore wrestling fans, for anyone who's watched Ring of Honor from the gate, they knew when they were watching a Ring of Honor show or a Ring of Honor event, they were watching a different level of pro wrestler from what they had seen. To me, a lot of people compare it to, Japanese style pro wrestling with a little American twist, and I do think that's a good comparison. But yeah, pretty much to me, I think when Bryan Danielson and CM Punk ended up getting signed and they were given a shot because their buzz on the independents, specifically in Ring of Honor, was so strong. To me, that changed the entire perception of what a casual fan looks for in a pro wrestler. Because I remember how over those guys got with fans. And it was not just the internet fans. It was everybody. It was kids. It was families. It was people who've been watching wrestling for years. They absolutely loved these guys. And then I think a company like WWE recognized that there is a market, and the audience really wants to see a new style of pro wrestling. So since then, as Ring of Honor's continued to demand the best wrestlers and get the best wrestlers in the world in their company, WWE has kind of followed suit, and they've decided to take these guys with independent credibility or worldwide credibility and put them on a bigger stage, because pretty much every single guy who's been taken from that system has succeeded, has excelled in WWE. So I totally think that WWE recognizes that wrestling is going in a different direction. I think the internet exploding the way that it has plays a huge part in all of that. Because it used to be, I used to hear this all the time, like, oh, there's a big difference between the internet wrestling fan and the wrestling fan that just comes to the show to watch the shows. Well, now everybody has the internet. So it's like everyone's an internet wrestling fan, kind of. So anyone can get on their phone and check out anyone they want to check out. So I think it's really cool, the direction that wrestling has gone. It's forced all the wrestlers, to step up their game. Like, I look at WWE's roster and, TNA's roster, Lucha Underground's roster, our roster, independents all over the country, and stuff overseas. I mean, we could go on. And the shows are stacked, and the shows are great. Like, there's almost too much good wrestling going on right now, I think. It's crazy. There's just good wrestling everywhere you turn. So I think Ring of Honor absolutely has played a huge part in that, both with its growth, both with guys from Ring of Honor going on to WWE and those casual fans getting to see these guys. And again, their expectation of what they want from a pro wrestler has grown. So I think Ring of Honor definitely, in some cases, gets the credit, and in some cases deserves more credit. So, but in turn, it's created a mainstream and independent resurgence of just really, really great pro wrestling across the board.
And at only 27 years old, it's really incredible to think about everything you've already accomplished thus far in your career. I mean, there's so many guys who get to that point in their career and are only just starting, but you've won titles in PWG, Ring of Honor, now a 2-time Ring of Honor World Champion, as I said before, only one of 3 people that can say that. It's really incredible to think about. You feud with a lot of people, a lot of great matches. Do you still think that down the road you do have those aspirations of going to WWE once you feel that you've accomplished and helped contribute all that you can to Ring of Honor?
Yeah, I do. And I think, asking straight up, I do think eventually that is something I would like to do. I think to say as a wrestler, if you don't want to have a WrestleMania moment someday, I think you're kidding yourself. I mean, I know everyone's different, but at least for me personally, I definitely want that someday. But the thing is, as far as right now, and this is something I've always focused on pretty much since I was in my early 20s, is instead of focusing so much on where I would like to go and where I would like to end up, I always focus on what I have right in front of me. So, I get asked this question all the time, like, when are you going to make the jump, to WWE?
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I don't even really think about it. The reason I don't think about it is because, like you had said, I'm the current 2-time Ring of Honor World Champion. I just started my career in New Japan Pro Wrestling. There is a lot left for me to do. There really is. There's a lot of things I'd like to accomplish. There's a lot of things that I see with Ring of Honor and our growth and loving being a part of that. New Japan Pro Wrestling is this whole new area that I haven't even, tipped the iceberg yet of the things I'd like to do there. Mm-hmm. So I'm definitely really focused on what I got in front of me right now, and that's continuing to move forward and push Ring of Honor to new heights that we've never seen before. I want to try to become a star over in New Japan. I really, really, really want to do well over there.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, certainly when people ask, like, do you ever think about maybe eventually going to WWE? And I think absolutely. I think eventually, sometime when the time is right, because timing is so important in pro wrestling. That's one thing that you can't really put a finger on, and you can't train yourself to do, but you just feel it. And when I feel that the time is right, and if WWE feels that the time is right, that's certainly something I would consider and definitely not shut out.
And speaking of the present, of the right now, going back to Final Battle this upcoming Friday, December 2nd, you and Kyle O'Reilly, are there any other guys on the current roster, maybe even over in New Japan as well, as you mentioned, are there any guys in the current roster, specifically in Ring of Honor, that you see kind of getting up to that main event level at some point, kind of fulfilling their full potential as a main event level guy?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are definitely a handful of guys from Ring of Honor. We got a really, really talented young group of guys. 2 guys who Ring of Honor just signed in Will Ospreay and Marty Scurll. Marty Scurll's our current Ring of Honor television champion. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, these guys came in over for these UK shows, and they did what all of us already knew if they were fans of these guys before, and they just absolutely had compelling, exciting, awesome pro wrestling matches. So I think these guys are really going to make an impact, and certainly you could see them in the main event scene. We got guys like Donovan Dijak and Leo Rush, 2 young guys who are really, really impressing, especially Leo Rush is 22 years old. He's been wrestling a year and a half. The skill and the talent and the timing and the presence that guy has for being so inexperienced, blows my mind. It makes me think he's older than he is, and he's lying about only having wrestled for a year and a half. Mm. He's so good. I'm glad that you brought up Silas Young as well. He's another guy who I had a Ring of Honor title defense against in Florida. We wrestled for a half hour. Silas is 100% ready for that main event spot. He has a great connection with our audience, and he's just one of those guys that can really have a compelling, exciting pro wrestling match with anybody. So I think the future is certainly bright for Ring of Honor. And, we're always looking for new talent as well to scoop up and take in. So, the direction this company is going with the roster that we have, I think the best is just getting started for sure.
And final question for you, as I said earlier, as we discussed earlier, the Final Battle bout with Kyle O'Reilly from last year was just an all-out brawl, a blood feud, and that wasn't even over the World Championship. This year it's the main event. It's a whole other story. Quite a bit has changed. You put him on the shelf a couple months ago. So much more is at stake now than there was even 365 days ago. What can fans expect from the upcoming match between you and O'Reilly? I mean, like you said earlier, the flipping the bird into the armbar spot was excellent. I mean, no spoilers, obviously, but what type of match can fans expect from you guys this coming Friday?
Yeah, well, again, I'm glad you brought up last year's match, because as physical and as violent as that match was, like you had said, the Ring of Honor World Championship was not at stake. And since then, we've had 365 days to create even more hatred with this story between Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. And a lot of people may know this, but in the Hammerstein Ballroom, that's the exact location where me and Kyle O'Reilly went from being mid-card Ring of Honor guys to main event guys. Kyle bloodied my face, and overnight we both became stars, and that kind of pushed our careers skyward for us. So this match is definitely going to be violent. It's definitely going to be physical. Something that's 6 years in the making for a championship as prestigious and important as the Ring of Honor Championship. You can't have it any other way. So the entire roster is beyond excited to be back in the Hammerstein Ballroom. Myself and Kyle O'Reilly cannot wait to tear into each other live on pay-per-view in our biggest show of the year in front of those New York City fans. So it's not going to be like anything you've ever seen before. It's definitely going to be the most epic chapter of Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. And if you can't make it to Hammerstein in New York City, you got to check it out on pay-per-view, because I can promise you it's going to be a very, very special match.
I mean, the pay-per-view is going to be worth watching for that alone. You got Jay Lethal and Cody Rhodes on there, too. You got the Briscoes and the Young Bucks to the World Tag Team titles. You got Silas Young, as you mentioned, versus Jushin Thunder Liger as well, making a special appearance. So the whole show is going to be great. As you said, it's the show of shows for Ring of Honor. Final battle this Friday, Hammerstein Ballroom, New York City, December 2nd. It's going to be awesome. Well, Adam, once again, as you said earlier, great meeting you a couple months ago. Great talking to you, and good luck on Friday, man.
Hey, man, yeah, great talking to you once again, and really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
No problem. Catch you down the road.
All right, sounds good.